Welcome to Between the Covers, the show for readers and writers and lovers of books. I'm Stephanie, and I'm a publisher at Red Penguin Books, where we publish books of all types and genres. So whether you have a manuscript all ready to go, a book still stuck in your head, or even 300 sheets of loose leaf shoved in a drawer. And yes, I do get an envelope or box at least once a month with loose leaf. Visit us at redpenguinbooks.com and unleash your inner author. I'm so excited today to be joined by two authors who have undoubtedly unleashed themselves. Diane Bator is the author of The Conned Lady, which is book 5 in the Wild Mystery series. And Darrell Newton is the author of The Apprentice Stone, The Healing Stone, which is book 1 in the Shadows of Time series. But first we'll meet Diane. And our author writes, eccentric romance novelist Mimsy Lexington has a secret. When she approaches Katie Mullins to help find details about her late husband's death, Katie and her boyfriend, Danny Walker, are drawn into a web of lies and deceit. The deeper they dig, the more they realize the biggest dangers may lurk close to home and need to suspect everyone, including Mimsy. So please welcome author Diane Bator. Thanks so much for joining me.
Oh, thanks for having me. This is great.
Thank you. And Diane, where do you hail from today?
I am in Southern Ontario in Canada.
Oh, wonderful. Southern Ontario. Is that like
Yep.
Ottawa or something else?
South of there, just outside of Toronto.
Oh, fantastic. Fantastic. And how's the weather been up there right now?
Today was a bit rainy, but it's been hot and sunny. So we kind of have a little bit of a rainforest belt where I live. So when it gets hot, it gets real hot.
When it gets hot, it gets real hot. And people tease and think that Canada is always under snow. That's not. No, you have 4 seasons just like the rest of us.
Absolutely.
You just might have a better shovel.
Probably a little bit bigger, yeah.
Absolutely. Well, book 5 in the Wild Mystery series. So you've been going wild with the Wild Blue Mysteries.
Absolutely.
What's the inspiration behind this particular book? And then we'll talk about the series as a whole.
This particular book was just kind of the wrap up of the whole series. So okay. it kind of takes it from bits in book 1 all the way through and ties up all these little loose ends. And it was great because I just wanted it ended and done. But as I'm writing the last chapter, there's little loopholes that I can come back and go, hey, I can do this, 5 years later or 10 years later and still pick up where we left off. So
it might not be finished.
It might not, but for now it's definitely finished because I have so many other projects on my plate right now. It's just not funny. So
well, when you started this series, and I definitely want to know what got the going with what started this series, but did you know that it was going to be 5 books, or did you just kind of start and think it was a standalone and it just kind of kept going?
It kind of started as a standalone, and then as I went on, I was working with an agent at the time, and she goes, well, 3-book series are pretty good and they're easier to sell than okay. So pretty soon I had mapped out 3 books, and I'm like, okay, well, this is good. And then I ended up with 3 books and then 4 books. And then I'm like, okay, you know what? At the present time, I just need to tie it all together, wrap it all up, and then we can move on later on. But for now, it was just, it all kind of started because I moved from Alberta across the country to Ontario. And as I dropped the kids at school and I'd be walking home and walking around this small town that I moved to. And I had this thought of, what if I was trying to hide? Where would I hide? Where would I go? What would I do? And that's how the whole thing got started. And then I joined a writing group in town, and it just kind of escalated from there. So here I am, 13 novels later and still going. So
wow. And 100 years from now or 200 years from now, when they unearth and find all these trilogies, they're going to say, oh, they love to write trilogies. No, it was actually all the agents and publishers who were pushing the trilogies.
Right. And it started as 3 and now all of a sudden it was 5. And I've got another series that I think it's up to number 5 now too. So, but it's still going. So we'll see what happens.
So is the object of the story, if you want to hide out, Ontario is the place to be?
Funny thing about that, no, it just was kind of the way it went. And the advice I got when I was very first starting, so this particular series is set in the US because that's the feedback that Canadian authors get. Set your books in the US and US publishers will buy them. So a lot of us have fallen for it and we've done that. And my series I'm working on right now, I'm working on book 2 of a different one, but it's actually set in Canada. So
good for you.
what happens with that.
That's hilarious. Just like I said, 100 years from now, we'll discover that everyone wrote a 3-book series and they were all set in the US.
Right? They're all set in Maine.
So far, well, Stephen King started that one.
Right?
It's very funny as you say that about what people say sells. And, yes, I'm not saying it doesn't sell, but it's like, well, we know that this sells. We're not even going to try something different, Write 3 books set in the US, you got it. I know all the American authors are watching this show right now saying, I wish I'm setting all my books in the US. I was thinking maybe I need to set them in Canada to sell them.
Maybe.
I don't know, no matter what we try.
Yeah.
The grass always is greener. And I guess for a Canadian, the grass is a little greener just because we have a little bit longer spring, maybe just a week longer.
Yeah.
So there's that. Well, that was quite a big move from Alberta to Ontario. Were you in the mountainous part of Alberta or the flat part?
Kind of in the middle. Okay. We were in Edmonton, so a couple hours from the mountains, but we did get to spend a lot of time in the mountains, which was
those mountains are beautiful.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And giving them up for Ontario.
Yeah. That was a hard sell.
I'm sure it was a hard sell.
But it's great because the community I'm in is a very arts oriented community.
Oh, nice.
So there is a lot of support for artists and writers and those sort of people. Like we actually have a great big arts fest coming up this summer. We've got blues and jazz festivals. We've got, you name it. Like it's just like a constant celebration of arts.
So where do you live? Because we're all going to move there.
I'm not telling because I don't want you. No, I'm just kidding. No, it's a little town called Orangeville, and it's a little town with a lot of heart and spirit, and just we're a lot of fun.
Isn't that fabulous? And what a good shout out for little towns, because
right?
I happen to live in New York, and I know we get a little snobby, like we have everything that everybody wants, but not so much when it could be nicer in a little town too.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. So tell me a little bit about your writing. Are you, okay, I got to write 3 books. Here's my characters, punch them all out. Are you more of a, I don't know, let me just start writing and see what happens?
They either call you a pantser or a plotter. Do you write by the seat of your pants or do you plot everything out? And I'm a mesh.
Yes. One of my authors, I liked better that they called it an exploratory author, that they're just explore. That sounded a little bit better than I have no idea. I'm just flying by the seat.
Oh yeah. You just said, and it's funny because I always get my best ideas when I'm walking to work or walking home, and all of a sudden I'm like, I need a pen. Where's my phone? I need to make notes. But that's always, it's either walking or in the bathtub when all those great ideas come, when you never have a pen handy.
Now, did you pick your genre or did your genre pick you?
It's funny because I write mystery and I've always loved mystery. I've always loved puzzles, but I never thought about writing it.
Really?
And honestly, and then I ended up, I can't remember even how I came across it, but I came across a contest for a novella. They took one of those old murder mystery party games and they gave you each character, all of their little quirks and foibles you had to work with, as well as the whole storyline. And you had to write a 10-chapter novella in the point of view of each different character.
Ooh.
So if you ever want to reach and push yourself for voices, that's a
Great
really good
contest.
way to do it.
Yeah.
I ended up winning the contest, and I went, oh, well, duh, like mystery's kind of my thing. So I don't know why I'm not writing it already. So
Wow. Were you writing something else before or besides?
I was just writing, but I didn't have a real genre. I wasn't really set in a genre or anything. I figured, women's fiction, that sort of thing. And the women's fiction book that I was writing turned into a mystery. So, and then everything else I write turns into a mystery, whether it starts out that way or not.
You have certainly found yourself.
Yeah.
That's for sure. So what's next on your hit parade? Because you said this was the last one in this series, although I'm not sure I believe you.
Well, right now I have 3 other series going on as well. So I have lots going on. I only grabbed a couple of books here, but I have one called The Glitter Bay Mysteries.
Ooh.
And All That Shines has my very first transgender character whom I love, love, love. And she will be back. She is fantastic. The one I'm working on right now is book 2 in my Sugarwood series, so my Canadian set mysteries.
Mhm.
And we're revamping the covers because I looked at them and I'm like, I don't know if I really like the little cartoony cover anymore. So we found some pretty cool covers
Good.
so book 1 will get a new cover and book 2 will be out in October. So
Well, and also cover design, as you obviously know, goes through trends.
oh yeah.
What's in any particular genre 1 year, 2 years later, it looks like a dated book. So,
Yeah.
not
And
always.
especially cozy mysteries tend to do more of the cartoony or the
Yes.
the kitchen setting, those kind of things, right? So at the time that was pretty good, but now I'm looking at it going, but it doesn't say mystery. And I
Mm.
want it to say mystery. So
Good for you. Good for
yeah.
you to know that. And
Oh, and my publisher was all for it. She's loving this.
and to be willing to change.
Yeah.
Some people will go through life with a cover that, it worked at the time, but whether they have changed as a person and an author, or whether the trends have changed and they just find it hard because they're stuck. So
I had covers. One of my series was originally with a publisher in California, and I loved the original design they had. So I have 3 different covers for my very first one in that series because we changed the covers a couple of times. I love, love, love the first one. The second one, I was like, it was cartoony and I just wasn't really sold on it, but I'm like, okay, well, it's out there. And then when they gave back the rights to my series, because they were changing stuff at their own end of things, I had the chance to take it to my Canadian publisher and say, hey, would you guys reprint these? And they were like, yeah, what do you want to do with them? So we got the chance to redo it again. Still not the cover I would love to have on it, but I'm pretty happy with them. So.
It's not easy. Could you show them the first one? Say something like this.
Well, and that's what I did. I'm like, I would love this, but I know that's not going to happen. So,
It's not easy. It's not
No.
easy. I love the way you termed your Canadian series as opposed to the one that your publisher is telling you to set in the States.
Well, it wasn't the publisher. It was actually, you get advice from other people who write.
Mm.
And it wasn't even so much the publishers, although I have had a US publisher tell me, set your novel in the US and we'll probably take a closer look because, and I quote, Americans are stupid and we just want to read about the States. And I'm just like, I can't believe you just said that. So I still have not sent a book to her.
Yeah,
But I was kind of put out by that too. And I was like, okay, well, I'll hang on to that one a little longer.
good thinking. And
Yeah.
as the American in the room, I'd like to say I love reading about other places, by the way.
Right. I do as well. Like I've just finished reading a book that was set in Norway of all places. Like,
Yeah.
oh, who would have thought?
Yeah,
It
no,
was really neat. So
I love reading about other places besides America. After a while, it's like,
yeah.
let's put this someplace else. I want to learn more. What can I say? But I thank you so much. And wow, sounds like you have your hands full with things.
Oh yeah.
Lots going on. So certainly for our viewers, visit dianebator.ca because she is Canadian. And while some of her books are set here in the States, for us who don't know better, others are set in Canada. And you definitely want to grab a copy of The Conned Lady and the books that came before it from the Wild Blue Mysteries. Our next guest today, Darrell Newton, is the author of The Healing Stone, which is the book 1 in the Shadows of Time series. And the author writes, what would you do with a stone that heals anything? Make money? Keep yourself alive? Keep your family alive? I have that stone, a simple looking thing. It's been in my family for generations. My father told me to do no harm lest I break the charm. My father's dead. My mother too. My uncle would kill for this stone. He has killed for it, and he even tried to kill me for it. So I ran. I live on the streets of Toledo to stay in the shadows and heal as many as I can. But they found me, the ones who created the stone. Francisco, medieval Spain, year of our Lord, 1212. Since 3188 BC, the surviving soldiers from a future time war have fought among themselves. Over the centuries, they altered Earth's history in the disguise of gods or in the cover of shadows. The Chiari intend to manipulate our timeline, hoping to create a utopia. The Centauri fear that continued intervention will further disrupt the continuum and destroy the galaxy. As the Chiari threaten to overrun them, the Centauri discover Francisco is the predicted one of 6 who will end the war. Each faction strives to recruit him without killing him or ripping time apart. Please welcome author Darrell Newton. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you. You should do the voiceover. That was pretty good.
Well, thank you. It's one of my favorite things to read, the storyline, because I realized we've been doing this show for many years, and authors are sometimes not the best people. If my first question is, so tell me about your story. Honestly, I get like a little mishmash, and I said, you know what? I'm going to tell them what the story's about so that the viewers know what is this, because sometimes, and you know what it is, I think sometimes authors sell themselves short. Well, it's like time and it's like magic and it's like a little thriller, and we don't know anything. That was cool. Really, really cool. So tell us a little bit about the inspiration, because wow, a stone that can do anything and the fight to get it through 3 millennia. So how did this start?
Well, it doesn't start off in the US and it doesn't start off in Canada. So this happened someplace else. And this story starts off with the question, what happens when time travelers lose their tools? So it's a science fiction. Mm-hmm. And the idea is that there was this time war that was going on, and as often as I forget where my phone is, you can imagine somebody who's traveling through time says, where's my phone? So something like that could happen. And then what happens if somebody comes across it and, starts checking out YouTube while they're back in the reception's not gonna be very good. But anyway, that's the idea. So.
Love that. I love that. And you are so right. We lose everything. What if we lose the really important things and we're stuck someplace?
Right. And so the first book is about a kid who, the stone has been in his family for generations. And his grandfather had found it, great-great-great-grandfather had found it. And it had caused all sorts of problems. Because you can imagine if you have something like that, it's going to cause some fights. People are going to want to use it for different things. And he ends up as an orphan on the street. So that's the story of Francisco. And then the third book you get the 2 of 6, and she has the cloak of many faces. So this will allow her to appear as anyone. And that's the tagline. If you could look like anyone, who would it be? So that is what happens with her. And then you end up, she's in Africa. So she is a princess in Africa, and the 3 of 6 is an Aztec warrior during the fall of the Aztec Empire. So these kind of build on each other as they go.
Wow. So when you started, like I had asked Diane, did you know where this was going? Did you know how many? Did you like, oh yes, 6 books. It's going to have a different, or is it just like, well, I'm writing it, I don't know.
Well, it's sort of, I think I have the same approach as Diane. It is, I call myself a plotster. So it's
Oh, I
a
like that.
pantster and a plotter. They're kind of together. I have an idea where I'm going to go, and I get started, and then my characters have a mind of their own, and then start shooting off different directions. So there is a plan. First 4 books have been written, but it could go any different direction. So we'll see what happens.
I remember reading about someone, I have to get the quote right, who said, of course I'm a pantser, because otherwise I'm just taking dictation. Like I want to experience the story for the first time also. If I knew the whole story, it's kind of, I guess, like watching a movie for the umpteenth time. Now, there are some movies you are happy to watch for the umpteenth time, but that as an author, they didn't want that. They wanted to discover it.
I think it's sort of like if you're going on a vacation, and the best vacations I've been on have been one where you have an idea, there's all these options that are along the way. You could do these, and day 3, we're probably going to do this. But if something inspires you, hits you on the way, and the kids want to do something else, then okay, let's do that instead. So you have the freedom to deviate, but you have a general idea where you're going to be headed.
Right, just like with the books. Now, it's interesting, you mentioned what havoc this could wreak with a family. One of the biggest problems that families hit is like divvying up the stuff. Like when someone passes away, and this is such a common problem. I bet even over in Canada, that when someone passes, Darrell, where are you from?
Ohio, but I had my father was from Canada, so I have a little bit of understanding there.
But
cross-cultural. I feel like I'm an immigrant. It's very hard growing up in the United States as a Canadian. No, I'm just kidding. No,
but certainly you're absolutely right. Families fight over, I want this plate. I want this piece of fuzz that grandma had. I mean, these are huge fights. And now all of a sudden you have something actually valuable.
Right. Yeah, and then he finds out later in the story, not too many spoilers here, that he thinks it's this magical device. It's something, maybe the stone that David used to kill Goliath or something. And then he finds out later that it has nothing to do with that. It's first 26th century first aid device. And so he thought he couldn't hurt anybody. And he's doing his best, living on the streets of Toledo as an orphan, not hurting anybody, getting beat up. He's a big kid. He gets beat up, he heals with the stone, and then goes on. Then he finds out that I can defend other people, and this thing's not going to break because it is this first aid device used in warfare. So
right. So the understanding of what he actually has grows over time.
Right. And it's the character development that he has. He starts in Toledo, ends up as a slave in Africa. And then I'm not going to say too much more, but there is development of character along the way.
That's okay. I jokingly say that we would never discuss anything past page 30.
There you go.
We discussed the synopsis and nothing past page 30. And there we go. So Darrell, what is the most valuable thing that you ever lost, even just temporarily?
Oh, man. Probably child number 3. we had, so we have a large family. We have 7 kids, and we got into the van, and generally there was like a sound off. Everybody sounds off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 as we go through. So we're taking off, and we didn't realize that Ryan is still outside the van. But that wasn't as funny as the time that Brandon got stuck. We all come out of the elevator. They're visiting me at work, and somebody had pushed the button to the 3rd floor. We're on the 1st floor. and bring it in. He is 3 years old at the time. He's still in the elevator. The doors close, and we let him in there, and we hear the screaming go up the 3 floors, all the way up. And he was fine. He was fine. We opened up the door. There's really no one else around, but the kids had a good time with it. They said, "Let's do it again, Dad." Said, no. It's amazing these kids ever grew up sane, with each other. Siblings, older siblings. Yeah,
I
they can
mean,
be fun.
certainly 7 kids. I'm sure you have plenty of experience with losing things, and also with that family dynamic of they say a 3-year-old, if you have it, it's mine. If I see it, it's mine. If I want it, it's mine. That whole,
Right.
And you have it with siblings. I'm sure there's a lot of that going on.
Yes. Yeah. But you know what? They also, now that most of them are older, and at adult age, it's they rely on each other because they build up that friendship and camaraderie over the years. They got all that history together, and it's really good seeing them work together, and you have this woven dynamic that everybody helps each other out for the most part.
For the most part.
Yeah, until we die, and then they start fighting over things, right? So we'll see what happens.
Have they read your books?
Yeah, I used to tell them his bedtime stories. Shut up, kid. I don't care if you understand this. You're my beta reader, all right? Be quiet. Tell me what you like.
I mean, built-in beta readers, that's,
Yeah.
doesn't get much better than that. Fantastic.
That's right. And the best test is to find out when they fall asleep. Okay, page 7 is gone.
You're like, yeah, that was not a good scene.
No.
Diane, you have some kids too. Do they read your books or not yet?
Yeah, I have 3 boys that are all grown up now, and they've always read my stuff. Just, I don't know how much of it they've all read, but my youngest actually really shocked me when my very first one, my little novella, came out, and he was taking a shoebox to school one day because they had to put in things that were important to them. So I'm like, "Oh, can I see?" And he wouldn't let me until he brought it home after the project. And my novella was in there. And I was like, "Where'd you put my book in there?" He goes, "Well, if you can do that, Mom, I can do anything."
Oh.
And right now he's training to be an airline pilot. So I'm like,
Oh.
yes, he can.
That's
Wow.
fabulous. And I love that story because it is such truth that what we do is laying the groundwork for our children to know what is possible. Darrell, you wrote all these, your kids, all of them, they know what is possible. They say that 90% of the population wants to write a book. And I truly believe that, because if I go into the grocery store and they introduce me, "Oh my gosh, I want to write a book. I did write a book. I started writing with everybody." But yet, at least here, only a small percentage of those people actually do it. But you did. So your kids, your families, they know that you can follow your dream and do what you want to do. And that is just so huge. And it sounds like, all of your books are clean, so the kids can read them. Sometimes we have, other authors and they're like, "Yeah, I'm not letting them read that book." Yeah. There's that. Well, both of you, the kids are grown now. Does that mean you have more time for writing, or does it mean you have more writer's block? Diane, how about you? Are you finding writing is easier, or were you writing when they were young?
I was writing in like little 15-minute bursts the whole time we were little. We're at the doctor's office. Okay, you guys play with the toys. I'm going to write. So I've always tried to squish it into every chance I got. And now I have more time, and now it's kind of like, oh, okay. So, but I prefer to write in the mornings if I can, but that's not always possible because I'm working full time and stuff as well. So it just depends on the schedule.
Right, it just depends. How about you, Darrell? Did you write when they were younger, or is it a new thing for you to write now that?
No, yeah, I wrote when they were younger, but I do have more time now, although there's a 20-year span between the first and the last, so we still have younger ones at home. But Diane, my hat's off to you you're working full time and then putting out the amount of material that you're doing. That's inspirational. I don't have that kind of credit behind me. When I work, it's a bit consuming, and then being able to write afterwards. Sometimes I can get their free time in, sometimes I can't, but we're starting to focus more on the writing now.
Fantastic, fantastic. So what's next for you in the writing? Diane, what are we going to see next on the shelf?
Well, next on the shelf is book 2 in my Sugarwood series. So Drop Dead Cowboy was book 1,
Right.
which I had a lot of fun with.
Too, right? That's getting
Yeah, change of cover as well, which I really love the new cover already. And book 2 is going to be called The Dead Man's Doll.
Ooh.
So yeah.
Is that all written already?
I am actually working on that one. I'm actually deep into a really good edit, and it should be finished very soon.
Fantastic. So fantastic. And Darrell, how about you? What's next on your shelf?
Well, the Healing Stone is not released yet. It was scheduled for the 11th of July, but then I had a literary agent pick it up, and he is now in process of pitching it. So it was going to be indie published, but now it looks like it may be traditionally, depending on what's going. So we're in the middle of negotiations, see what's going to happen with that. In the meantime, I'm thinking, oh yeah, free time. No, I need to get in gear and get number 2. Going for a second edit, and then keep the series going with others. So keep pumping along.
Fantastic. Very cool. Very cool. Diane, if I were shopping today and I wanted to buy a copy of The Conned Lady for someone, can you describe who on my gift list I should be buying this for?
Anyone who likes a good mystery, not a lot of, I mean, there's a little bit of violence in it. There's really not a lot of blood, guts, and gore. It's just a nice, light, almost like a beach read. Ooh. Something you just want to take to the beach, lay back, and you don't have to think about the story, although you'll get caught up in going, oh, I wonder if that's who did it.
Oh, fantastic. I'm down for a beach read. It's the right season for that.
Absolutely.
And Darrell, we might not be able to read it soon, but who, when it's ready, can I buy the Healing Stone for?
The target audience is young adult, new adult, and anybody else in between who likes good sci-fi with fantasy flavor. And it also has a lot of historical elements, and there was a lot of research that went into that time period. And the events that happened in the book were historical events.
Oh, I love that. I love that you did the research so that we're learning while we're reading. And certainly interested readers should go to your website there to find out, keep up with what's going on. Is it agented? Is it indie? What's happening? When do I get my hands on a copy? So you're working on book 2, you said, is in the works, or?
Yes, The Stone Inside. That's book 2. And The Cloak of Lies is number 3.
You know, watch out, that publisher's going to want all,
Yeah, I bet.
Right. I mean, they're going to want at least 3 on their desk tomorrow.
Yeah, that's going to be tough.
Yeah, I know. There's that little pesky thing called work and family, but it will get done. Well, for both of you, the books sound wonderful, and certainly we hope our viewers head over to your websites, head over to Amazon, grab a copy wherever your books are sold, and there's plenty more where that came from. So thank you so much for joining me, and when the new books come out, please join me back here between the covers.
Absolutely.
Thank you.